Hey everyone, I got a Oneida SuperCell, and I learned a few things during the installation. I thought I'd share them in case I can help someone else. So the first thing I learned, right out of the gate, is getting this gasket in the right place. It doesn't really say in the book exactly where the gasket needs to go, and I just turned the wall mount upside down, put the bucket on top, and drew a circle, and then put the gasket inside that circle. The thing is, there are these bolts that go into the wall mount. They don't really say what these bolts are for. And I realized after you get them in, you screw them all the way in and they stick out the bottom. And then the bucket sits, you push it back against those bolts and they sort of stop the bucket from going too far back and puts the bucket exactly where it belongs. So the gasket needs to be in a very specific place. It should be lined up with the front of the wall mount. And the instructions don't say that. So mine is like a half inch too far back. And so now the bucket doesn't stay um, on the gasket. So I'm going to have to get a new gasket. Once you put it in, it doesn't, there's no getting it off and moving it once it's in place. It's super strong adhesive. So that was one issue I had. Another was the putting the wall mount in the right place. So the instructions say that the template that it comes with should go 25 and a half inches above the floor. Mine needed to go like 26 and a half. I don't know if my floor is crooked or what. So I got the mount on and then the bucket didn't fit underneath. So luckily I was able to sort of push the mount up like an inch, and it's not sitting in the keyholes anymore. It's sort of pushed up, and I put a couple of more bolts in, so hopefully that's enough shear force to keep it in place. I mean, my problem is I sort of strip my bolts when I put them in because I'm going into studs, and I really did not want to pull those bolts out again and try to remount it. The other thing is it doesn't come with mounting bolts, so whether you're putting it in concrete or come on, focus. Whether you're putting it in concrete or wood, you have to go get your own bolts. So luckily, I had some laying around. You'd think for over $2,000 they would include the mounting hardware. So what I would do is just put the wheels on the bucket, put the wall mount on the bucket, and then put it in place. And then that'll tell you exactly where. Maybe put one or two sheets of plywood, something to raise it up a little bit off the ground, and then put it in place, and then figure out where your holes need to go then. What else did I learn here? So attaching the Cyclone to the wall mount is not fun when the wall mount is in place. There's not a lot of space to get up under there. These are nylon bolts, so you have to use a socket and wrench to tighten them. You can't finger tighten them, and these are long bolts. Oh, that was the other thing. I mean, these bolts are long, and the instructions have them pointing down, and so that's even more clearance that your bucket needs. So I got the bolts in, and then I realized that I'm not going to be able to get my bucket in there because the bolts are sticking out the bottom. So I had to take all the bolts off and then flip them around and put them back on. And that's what I learned, that this piece is super sharp. I cut my head real bad on that with lots of blood. Luckily, I didn't need any stitches. So, the other thing I would suggest doing is just once you figure out where the wall mount is supposed to go, put your 4 bolts in the wall, but don't put them in all the way. Then take the wall mount off and attach the Cyclone on your bench and just put the entire assembly on all at once. And that way you don't have to get underneath there to tighten the Cyclone bolts, the 6 bolts. The other issue I had with the instructions is that there's this bracket that attaches to the Cyclone, and it says look at the template to figure out exactly where this bracket goes, but I could not find where it went. I don't know, maybe I'm somehow missing it in the instructions. So what I did was I installed the bracket to the Cyclone, and then I just, wherever the bracket landed after I got everything installed, I screwed it into the wall. But the issue with that was see if we can see this back here. So my bracket landed a little bit higher than my backer board, so I had to put another piece of plywood back there and then screw it into that, which was also a pain. But one thing I learned in doing all that was, you know, in the instructions it says that the output from the Cyclone can only face 90 degrees left or 90 degrees right or straight out. When, you know, I think because there are, in the wall mount, there are holes here and here. You can't see them because they're covered up all the way around. So there are actually 12 holes to install the Cyclone. So I think you can actually turn this any way you want by 30 degrees. So you can go 0, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. The only thing that's preventing you from doing that is that wall mount that I showed you back there. It attaches to the top of the Cyclone. So it attaches to this lip in the Cyclone, and there's a hole there for that, and those holes are only at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. So, you know, if you're going to turn it 30 or 60 degrees instead of 90 degree increments, then you would have to drill another hole to attach the wall mount so you can attach the Cyclone to the wall. I'm sure that voids your warranty, but if you really want to do it, you could probably do that. Let's see if there's anything else I got here. You know, the motor is not that heavy. It talks about it being pretty heavy. I thought because it's 5 horsepower, 3 motors, that it would be super heavy, but unless you're built like a bird, you'll have no problem getting that on there. And then this vacuum hose that gets attached to the motor housing, and then the bucket for negative pressure. I needed a heat gun to get that on. It was too tight, and there's not a lot of clearance here, so I couldn't support the back of the bracket, and I was afraid I was going to break the bracket, so I just heated it up with a heat gun. And I think that's it. So good luck if you get it installed. I haven't run it yet. I have to get 220 service in my garage, and my dad is going to help me with that, but he's not coming anytime soon because it's the middle of winter and he lives in Costa Rica. I also got to get all the duct work going down to my shop. So I don't know, maybe I'll make a video about that too someday. All right, hope this helps someone. Thanks.